Boxing Truth here. Wanted to do a prediction and breakdown of the Errol Spence Jr. versus Chris Algieri fight for the first PBC on NBC card taking place in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center this Saturday. It's a very solid card brought by the PBC on NBC. Steve Cunningham and Golacki will fight in the co-feature. Very solid cruiserweight fight. Even Marcus Brown's taking a step up for his in another bout that's scheduled. And as for the main event, Errol Spence Jr. is finally taking his first step up as a professional. A lot of potential Spence has since coming out of the amateurs. He is definitely talked about among hardcore boxing fans. Some say he's the truth, but the resume hasn't provided the answers that we need in order to really get a good idea of whether he is on the way to being the truth or perhaps just another hype job. But Spence is taking his first real fight against Chris Algieri, who is now experienced, who has been in there with the much better competition, has big wins under his belt, has won a world title, has competed with the best of the best, not named Manny Pacquiao. And Errol Spence, has he been developed right? It's hard to say, because that's one of Al Heyman's weaknesses as a advisor and manager to a fighter. I wouldn't say he's the best matchmaker, because he's done a terrible job with other fighters. He's matched them too soft, not developed them properly, and by the time they step up to another level, they're prepared and ready. It's happened before with Heyman and his prospects. He didn't do a good job with Tony Harrison. Look at how he got exposed from the first time he fought a real opponent, a guy that actually tried to came to win. It's happened with Gary Russell Jr. Look how soft the matchmaking was. Look how he developed Gary Russell. Tomato can after tomato can, TBA after TBA, fighting nobody coming to win. Then has him step up against Lomachenko only because it was for a vacant world title that the fight was made. And look what happened. Look at the end result. The development process from Heyman when it came to Gary Russell didn't help him prepare for a fighter like Lomachenko. He got his ass whooped. So is that the same situation with Errol Spence Jr.? Has he been developed properly for an opponent like Chris Algieri? Perhaps he's been developed enough to handle an opponent like Chris Algieri, because even though Errol Spence, this is his first step up, he's fighting a legitimate, solid opponent for his first step up fight. A guy's going to come to win, a guy that is very confident in Chris Algieri. However, Heyman is playing a little on the safe side. He didn't have him fight a puncher for his first step up fight. He has him fight a boxer with a limited amateur background, pretty much virtually no amateur background, but a guy is going to come to win, a guy is going to test Spence, a guy that's going to make it difficult, make Spence dig a little deeper, actually dig deep than what he's been doing. He's been in front of guys that are not coming to win, hand-picked opponents, cannon fodder, opponents designed to make him look good. But this guy in Algieri, he's going to provide something different. We're going to get some answers about in this fight. Now, Chris Algieri, he's definitely an inspiration to people because of his background. I mean, this guy has virtually no amateur experience. His fighting experience is kickboxing. He was a world champion in kickboxing, was undefeated, never lost a bout, and then he turned to boxing at the age of 23. Became a world champion, upsetted the odds, getting dropped twice against Pervanikov, outboxing the shit out of him pretty much the rest of the way. I watched the fight again, and after that first round, Algieri outboxed the shit out of Provodnikov for much of the fight. Maybe he lost a round or two after that first round, but he put on a good display of boxing and poise and coming back and just not being denied and winning a world title and getting that big fight with Manny Pacquiao on a grand stage. Didn't show up. The event was too big for him, but it's unbelievable that he was able to even get that fight. But that's definitely an inspiration. I mean, it's crazy some of the stories similar to Algieri, guys that came late to boxing still had success. Fighters like Nate Campbell, this guy was just didn't do anything with boxing for years in his life. Didn't even step into a gym until he was 27 years old. Somehow became a unified lightweight champion of the world, the number one lightweight in the world in his career. I mean, held his own with Joel Casamayor. Same thing with Maravilla. This guy was a soccer player, Sergio Martinez. Didn't take up boxing until he was 20 years old. Still had great success. Deontay Wilder as well. Deontay Wilder has beaten the odds. This guy stepped into a gym when he was 20 years old. Had no amateur pedigree. Had very limited amateur fights. And still somehow made it to the Olympic team. Still has somehow had some success in international level. And now he's a world champion. Yes, the opposition and all that shit, okay, but he still made it. He still fulfilled an achievement, and it was against the odds with the limited experience he had. He is the last man to have earned a bronze medal in the Olympics for an American Olympic team. He's the last American man to win an Olympic medal. Hasn't happened since. So, good shit to those guys, beating the odds, coming to the sport late, but still somehow finding a way to succeed. But when it comes to this fight with Errol Spence, amateur pedigree might matter in this fight because Errol Spence got a pretty good amateur pedigree. He had success in the amateurs as in the United States. He won the National Golden Gloves twice. He won the Nationals. He just didn't have the same success at the international level. He would always lose around the quarterfinals or the second round at the World Championships. Made it to the quarterfinals of the Olympics in 2012. So he didn't have the same success on an international level. Doesn't mean you're not going to be a good prize fighter, though. Just like Chris Algieri, just because you only have a kickboxing background doesn't mean you can't win a world title. He did it. But now, what's going to happen when these two match up? Now, Chris Algieri, he has to employ the strategy he had with Provodnikov to make this fight, for him to even have a chance to get a decision. He cannot do that strategy he did against Amir Khan. He can't do the strategy he did against Eric Bonet. He can't stay in the pocket, in the wheelhouse of Errol Spence, and try to go toe-to-toe with him, because that's what he was doing with Eric Bonet. He was working on his inside game, but that's just going to give Errol Spence the opportunity to use his physicality, because he's the much bigger and stronger guy. He's the naturally bigger guy. Errol Spence has fought as high as junior middleweight in his career. Chris Algieri mostly between 140 and 147 in his career. Another factor that plays into this fight is the physicality of both fighters. Now, Algieri had a lot of physical advantages over Provodnikov. That's why he was able to cause a lot of fits for Provodnikov to get inside and to constantly getting touched up with jabs and straight right hands. But he doesn't have those same advantages against Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence is just as tall, only a half-inch height advantage for Chris Algieri in that department. They also have the same reach, so Algieri just doesn't have any physical advantages in this fight. Errol Spence is the bigger, stronger guy. Also has the better amateur pedigree. And Chris Algieri, because of the lack of amateur experience, the guy can't crack an egg, man. He can't punch at all. I mean, he's not enough experience. I mean, the guy can't punch for shit. I mean, it's really lacking the the power in his punches. But Errol Spence, he hasn't fought in murderer's row competition. He's been somewhat protected. Hasn't really stepped up. He's pretty much stayed up in the same level from around 35 to 60 ranked welterweights in the world. This is his first real fight. He has good balance, southpaw. He's got good speed. I would say it's above average. Above average foot speed, good hand speed. Throws very strong punches, very physical. Likes to come forward. I like the way Errol Spence fight. He comes to fight. He comes to put on a show. He comes to deliver some knockouts. So I like Errol Spence's attitude when it comes to his fighting style in the ring. He's going to come bring it to you. Now, Algieri, he's got to use the Provodnikov game plan. Just keep stick and move, keep boxing. Give himself a chance to get a decision. Because it's going to be very difficult for Algieri to get a decision. Look, this is an Al Heyman promoted show. Errol Spence is one of his valuable pieces, up and coming. Obviously, Al Heyman wants Errol Spence to win. There's more upside for if Errol Spence wins. So, the odds are stacked against Algieri because he has no knockout power. It's going to be very difficult as the B-side fighter to get a decision. He is fighting in his hometown, well, his home state. At the Barclays, he recorded one of his biggest wins against Provodnikov in the same venue. But, you know, it's boxing, politics involved. Al Heyman is going to make sure Spence is going to get this win. All Spence has to do is keep it close. Al Heyman and his team, you know, they'll probably have one of the judges on the payroll make sure that one of the cards are bought. And Algieri is going to have a hard time separating himself with Spence and getting a decision. I believe the fight would be competitive. I believe Spence is going to get hit a lot because his defense fucking sucks. I mean, that's something he has to work on. He gets hit with too much with right hands, right uppercuts. He was getting touched up a lot by the last guy he fought. Some guy from Mexico I never heard of, Alejandro Barrera, got touched up in that fight. And Alejandro Barrera is a few levels below Chris Algieri in terms of speed and athleticism and agility, boxing ability. I believe it will be a difficult fight for Spence because I think Algieri should box in this fight, employ the Provodnikov strategy, make it difficult, have Spence come after him, try to land some big shots. But I don't think Algieri is going to be able to be dominant enough to get a decision. That's what he's going to have to do. He's going to have to dominate Errol Spence to get one. Spence is going to keep it close. He's going to land the bigger, harder shots. The judge is going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And Algieri, he just doesn't have that eraser doesn't have that knockout power to really make a difference in this fight. But I believe it'll be competitive. I was thinking about an upset, because an upset, it's bound to happen sooner or later, and it usually happens when you least expect it. And I was thinking about this fight when it was first announced. I thought maybe Algieri could pull it off. And I was thinking, fuck it, I'll go with the upset. But after watching some tape and doing some studying, I have to say Errol Spence is going to win this fight. I don't think he'll knock out Algieri though. It's very tough to stop Algieri. Maybe he could drop him because of Errol Spence's physicality, and he's got power, and there's no doubt about it. He can punch. But Algieri is just too tough, too much heart, too much courage, too much confidence, not willing to lay down. He might get dropped in the fight. But I know the PBC fanboys and Al Heyman believers will like a stoppage in this fight for Errol Spence, so that they will have a stronger claim that Spence is the truth, the future of boxing, But I don't see it. I think he'll maybe a knockdown or two. But I see Errol Spence getting a competitive but clear unanimous decision for Errol Spence Jr. He will get the victory, remain undefeated, and then let's see if Al Heyman will push for that mandatory shot with Kell Brook. Kell Brook still has 9 months to make a mandatory, but right now I don't. Errol Spence ain't ready for Kell Brook. He needs to fight a puncher if he gets past Chris Algieri, which I think he will this Saturday. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.